First of all, I want to start by introducing the folks that we have here. This is Ann Sherrill. She's the president of the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Club. We've got Kevin Quavillion, who's the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club. We've got Randall Strike, who's the president of the Stevens Point Common Council. We have Sarah Robinson, who is the head of the Association of Downtown Businesses, and Dr. John Clark, who is the current president of Mid-State Technical College, who will be retiring shortly. But we do have the incoming president of Mid-State here as well. Dr. Sue Bujak is here with us as well, and other members of the Mid-State Board. Today we get a chance to release the framework of a project that has huge potential for this entire community. Stevens Point has struggled for nearly 25 years to answer a question of uncertainty as to what will happen with this facility. Today, with the announcement of Mid-State's intentions to move and expand their campus from 30,000 to 56,000 square feet, we now have that long-awaited answer. The city would acquire the mall and turn over 56,000 square feet of the existing building, land, and parking to Mid-State, allowing for their expansion. Along with that, the city wishes to continue our conversations with the owners of the Dunham building to reach a cooperative deal for its acquisition. We would then demolish the center of this area that we're standing in to make room for green space and parking and a northern entrance to the Children's Museum and the possibility of the Great Fox Theater reopening. And in addition to that, the creation of a brand new headquarters for our Boys and Girls Club. Today is but a first step in what will be a path over the next 30 days where we will have multiple meetings to discuss specifics and eventual final decisions on moving forward with this project. Public discussions about the nature, size, and scope of this project will be appropriate and needed for all of us as a community to move forward with such an exciting project. We must all understand that this is a framework that must go through public meetings and votes to determine its final approval. What is most powerful about this plan, however, is the fact that it touches so many different corners of our community simultaneously. From Mid-State's success, to the Boys and Girls Club, to allowing for a new northern exposure to the Children's Museum, the city's ability to control the current Mid-State campus, and the long-awaited possibility of the Fox Theater opening, this project has the ability to literally change the face of our entire city. I was elected to bring forward these ideas and projects that will challenge our beliefs, and challenge and push our conversations, some controversial. I'm thrilled to be able to put this before you because I believe that's who I am as a person, and that's clearly who I want to be as your mayor. This project is something that our entire community will need your input and your thoughts, and I await a very successful process over the next 30 days to determine how we move forward with this great potential. So thank you, and I look forward to questions from the press in just a minute. With that, I want to introduce Dr. John Clark, the president of Mid-State Technical College. Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Halverson. And welcome to everybody for your attendance this afternoon. For those of you who have a long memory, Mid-State Technical College presence in this community dates back to 1911. We've been at the Michigan Avenue site since 1961. This news the mayor just provided you with is probably the best news that we have received or been challenged by in our college at this site for over 50 years. During the mid-70s, we moved our campus in Wisconsin Rapids from where it was located into a new facility. In the early 90s, we did the same in Marshfield, and now today we have a chance to do the same in Stevens Point. This location will provide us room for program and service expansion. It'll provide us greater parking and safety. If you have been through the Michigan Avenue site, you know that it gets to be a bit congested at times. And this site, again, will provide for a little relief from that. It provides us for additional visibility in this community, and I think gives us the ability to project what this college really represents for not only Central Wisconsin, but being a partner in the Wisconsin Tech College system. I'm eager to share with folks the kinds of enrollments that we've experienced in the last few years. In fact, in the last 3 years, our enrollment has increased over 30%. And a significant part of that has been at the Stevens Point location. Campus Dean Steve Smith, who is in the audience. Steve, if you would just raise your hand, has done a marvelous job of wringing out the greatest capacity of any of the college locations that we have within the district, and I thank him for that. So we've just about maxed out our ability to provide services at our current location. Beyond that, I'm going to give you some numbers with all due respect to our university partners and the new Chancellor, Bernie Patterson, in the city here, leading UWSP and a very proud and prominent educational institution in not only central Wisconsin, but recognized internationally. The University of Wisconsin is experiencing record enrollments today. They have a total of enrollment of over 182,000 students. If you look at the Wisconsin Tech College system today, we have over 400,000 students enrolled in our system. Mid-State Tech College enrolls today over 9,100 students, and at the Stevens Point location, we have 2,800 full and part-time students enrolled in programs there, coming and going. These are complex individuals, parents, working family members with children, complex lives, I would say a little bit more complex than sometimes compared to university dorm-bound freshmen and sophomore students. I'd like to take time to recognize leaders in our college board members that are here. Randall Dine, Dr. Alice Ranlett, Joseph Kinsella, Dr. Sue Bujak was mentioned. Sue, if you'd raise, she's incoming president of the college effective January of 2011. And then Marge Coker-Nelson was in the crowd here too. Marge is right over here. Many of you know Marge from her employment here at Century Insurance. Marge serves on our board, and certainly welcome to have you here today, Marge. And now it's my great pleasure to turn the podium over to Kevin Quavillion. I had Kevin, sorry about that. Kevin is the executive director, as many of you know, of the Boys and Girls Club here locally. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to have Ann Sherrill join me too. Ann, if you want to come on up. Ann's our current president. She needs to be in the spotlight too. But I'd like to recognize some of our board members and staff that are here, if you won't mind raising your hand. Steve, Lois, Jerry. Well, the Boys and Girls Club is obviously very excited about this opportunity. We have been searching for a long-term home in Stevens Point for many years. The facility that we have downtown on Ellis Street is simply not big enough. We feel the rec center has the perfect demographics for us. It's located within a park. It's right next to PJ Jacobs. It's on the bus line, and it's central to Stevens Point, allowing us to serve as many kids as possible. The building has beautiful amenities that we feel we can use in our programming, and it'll allow us to offer all the much more for Stevens Point kids. And it'll be neat to have the building revert back to a place for kids. And Ann, if you want to add anything about that?
Oh, I shared with Kevin that I roller skated there as a kid. This is a momentous opportunity and occasion, and I look at this as saving the mall and an opportunity to serve our children.
Well said. So again, we feel it's a perfect opportunity. We're very fortunate to be a part of this. We certainly thank the mayor for his forward thinking and foresight and investment in kids and education. And I strongly believe that's what we need to do here in Stevens Point. And the Boys and Girls Club, I promise, will be a big part of that. So we look forward to an exciting opportunity. So I'll turn it back to the mayor.
Excellent. Thank you. So all of us would be certainly happy to take any specific questions that any of you might have or any clarifications that you want as to what the process will be from here. Quite honestly, there's probably going to be at least 10 different public meetings that are going to be required for this particular transaction. Plan commission meetings, joint review board meetings, modifying the existing TIF, amending the existing TIF plan, which will have to be done as part of this, ultimately amending the original redevelopment plan for the area as well, along with the Finance Committee, the Plan Commission, and ultimately the Common Council on all of the agreements that we have to have. The meeting on Monday, of course, is but a preliminary resolution to start the process about potentially selling a bond to be able to make all of this happen. I think there was a bit of unclarity as to just exactly what the preliminary resolution was or is meaning on Monday. That is but the first step of a very lengthy process that we will have to go through, where there will be a lot of public input and a lot of thought about the pros and cons of what this project really does represent. I will reiterate that I think it represents an unbelievable opportunity for us as a community to seize on the success that Midstate has and really continue to catapult that institution forward to be responsive to workforce development needs. It's no question that we have our challenge with educating, retooling, and re-education for our workforce that needs those skills perhaps more than anything right now. But as we also have to continue to lay the groundwork for a successful community, we have to know that those social opportunities are there for children. And the Boys and Girls Club really does represent a key component of all of that for us to remember as far as this entire process. Some of the other indirect ancillary benefits, as we've talked about, is great exposure to the Children's Museum. We've got Katie Mathai here for a northern entrance and exposure for children for a safe drop-off for their institution. An indirect need, although serious, if you go to a sporting event at the Willett or Gerke, is the parking situation that we experience at the Willett, at Gerke, and at Midstate's current location, albeit not nearly as important of the overall missions of these other organizations, but a clear issue that we have to deal with, because right now, all of those uses in one area are simply mutually exclusive to that location. So for us to find an alternative that harnesses all of those different variables and brings that to fruition here in downtown, reusing nearly 60,000 square feet of this building and allowing for the college to be successful in their growth strategy for at least another 25 years is certainly something that I think we can all be very proud of. But specifics on funding or process or any questions, certainly we'd be happy to answer that first from the press. And if members of the public have any questions, they certainly feel free to answer those. So any questions from the press? First of all, Mr. Kowalski. The funding for this project is anticipated to be a $5.9 million general obligation bond. We have been citing 5.8 in the press. The 5.8 is the actual funds associated with the bond that would go into investment. The other remaining portion would be closing costs, legal costs, and other costs associated with the bond. So that would be a general obligation bond that we would float through the TIF district, ensuring that all of the expenditures that would be part of this would then be TIF eligible for the remaining 23 years of the district here, which we don't stand in currently, but as part of one of the many public meetings would require a remodification of the existing TIF district. So that would be the process. The itemization of that is generally $1.875 million for the mall itself. We're still working on conversations with the Dunham's ownership to come to an eventual conclusion for the acquisition of that facility. The $1.8 million relocation incentive for Midstate and another $300,000 component for their use directly into the renovation of the building pretty much generally behind us. In addition to that, as you know and many others know, we've applied for a community development block grant specifically targeted toward public facilities and the reuse of downtown revitalization. That application was amended by Community Development Director Michael Ostrowski, who has been absolutely instrumental in getting this to the point today. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize former Community Development Director John Gardner, who is here with us, who really laid the foundation for this over the last 25 years in his work. So I do want to make sure we recognize John as well. I know he's here somewhere with us. That application has been amended. Initially, we had talked about acquisition of a variety of different properties around us, and this was a component of that grant. We have now made this project the component of that grant. So the entire hopeful $750,000 as part of that grant would also go to the direct renovation of the Midstate campus, which is going to be between $5 and $6 million total project for the renovation of that building. Roughly the area that we're standing in right now as far as the demolition would cost about $250,000 to remove the center section of the mall, and $1 million total for the reestablishment of 3rd Street, the reconstruction of the parking that we would then be sitting in, the green space as you see laid out on these site plans, which you're more than welcome to take a look at. That's roughly $1 million project in and of itself to institute all of that back into this particular area. The other, as you see, the Dunham's building remains, and then we also have clearly identified a future redevelopment pad for the area which would be directly to Dunham's east. That's roughly a 15,000 square foot footprint that would probably produce between another $2.5 or $3 million of taxable value to the downtown TIF district. So that pretty much lays out all the variables that are contained within that general obligation bond, which would be borrowed through the TIF, ensuring that the added revenue, of course, and the added incentives that will be created as we move forward with this project as a huge traffic generator will then be reused to pay down that debt and try to isolate that from the general tax levy. Other questions? Mr. Brown?
Just curious, is there a figure in terms of the amount of commercial development or tax business change that ultimately have to happen in relation to that?
Complete expansion of value and complete and total recoup of the $5.8 million is about a $20 to $25 million increase in increment. So between 20 and 25 million to recoup the totality of that investment. Other questions from the press? Yes, sir.
Mayor, are there going to be any jobs created by this, or is it simply just kind of building things? I mean, talk about that. What kind of impact could this have in terms of jobs?
Well, I think the jobs certainly associated with the eventual construction of this particular building will certainly be part of it. There's going to be a lot of work in terms of physical infrastructure, road work, utility work, pavement that will obviously be part of this. Midstate, as they can, and certainly Dr. Clark can speak to the potentiality of their expanded services and their expanded programs, can speak certainly more specifically to Midstate. But their ability now to reach the square footage necessary to have true mission attainment here at their Stevens Point campus, I think, is a huge part of it. Not only are we creating jobs clearly as part of this project, it's the importance that we're creating jobs and we're ensuring jobs stay in this area because of the educational tools and skills that Midstate will be able to provide in a much better fashion because of this facility as well. Other questions from the press? Yes, Mr. Kowalski. Monday's council meeting will be the presentation of a preliminary resolution which would start the potentiality of the bonding process, and that's a very strategically regulated and very statutorily regulated process by state law. The first step is a preliminary resolution that would have to pass, and then there's a 30-day period that we have to have that process be open for the potential of actually being able to sell those bonds, which would be toward the end of January. So the process really is about a 30-day process. We have offers to purchase the mall in place, which would look at the end of January as the potential closing for that. So that's really the process. And from the time the preliminary resolution goes out, then all of the other public meetings would then have to happen as part of that. Not just directly associated with the bond, but all of the other zoning changes, conditional uses, or any amendments to plans that we would have to do, agreements that the Finance Committee would have to agree to, and then ultimately the Common Council. Yes?
Dr. Clark, can I step forward? Sure. Talk about the mayor said facilitating the opportunity to expand on what the college can offer. Can you touch on that a little bit? Are there programs that you're able to announce now that with this expanded campus that the college will be able to offer?
Very good question. We have been dealing with these issues for many, many years. If there's anything of any significance going on in central Wisconsin with regard to workforce training, we are involved with those initiatives. We have some 450 different partnerships going on right now that the college is involved with in central Wisconsin. I'll use a couple of examples in the Wisconsin area, Rapids area that we've worked with as examples. ERCO Worldwide, a chemical manufacturer in the Port Edwards area. We completely assisted them in transforming their workforce and their practices to be productive, to be competitive in the manufacture of their product, and also to reduce their energy costs quite substantially. Some may know that ERCO, outside of the kilns in Kohler, the Kohler company, is the largest single consumer of electrical power in the state of Wisconsin. This initiative that they undertook to upgrade their plant saved about 30% of their energy cost, which when you get an electrical bill that is in the neighborhood of $1.2, $1.3 million a month, and I'm looking at Randall Dine. Randall retired from ERCO for a long career with them. It's a pretty significant saving. And they had another unique first that they were involved with. That was that they were the state's largest single emitter of mercury emissions. Now, they weren't doing anything wrong, state or federal laws being broken. They fully contributed about 25% of the state's mercury emissions in addition to the other power plants and paper companies operating in Wisconsin. But this new upgrade that they applied to their plant took their mercury emissions to zero. the best environmental news that's happened in the state of Wisconsin in a century. Another example is ocean spray cranberries. Wisconsin Rapids has the world's largest processing center for cranberries that exists, not only for juice, but the sweet and dried craisins that are so addictive for many, especially on the holidays. They invested $150 million in their plant. We assisted them in training and retraining their workforce. Their production is at the best in any of their plants across the nation, and they're looking to expand their operations. Now, you know of the news here with the Whiting, a New Page mill closure. You know what's happening with Journeys Healthcare. I look at this community and I look at all of you, but for us, who is responsible for transforming these communities and getting back on their feet so that we have a future not only for ourselves, for our children and our grandchildren? We need to step up in times of difficulty and challenge. That is what this project is all about. And we ought to be applauding Mayor Andrew Halberstam for his vision to look at the complex nature of this project and bringing all the components together to share with you today what is being shared. This is really good news on so many fronts. So looking at, so what does the future hold? What does the 21st century hold for us? Is it paper making? Is it machining and manufacturing? Probably to a less degree than exists now. We're certainly looking at the healthcare fields. We're looking at IT. We're looking at renewable energy. We're looking at those areas of transportation that will embrace the new systems other than the petroleum, gasoline and diesel, electric and natural gas as an example. We need to really be creating the futures that we want in these communities. You, we, everybody that's not here today represents great possibilities for this community and this state, and we need to pull out the very best that we can. I can assure you that if folks didn't wake up in Chicago or Atlanta or San Francisco wondering about what's happening in Stevens Point today. We need to be planning and need to be acting upon these things that will assure our strength and our future and our viability going forward. And this, I think, does and demonstrates this so very well. And I think you just need to recognize this has tremendous positive potential. This lifts all the organizations that have been mentioned here today. But if you look at an influx into this community of just in this area of 2,800 students that will be in and about just this central location here, that's going to have a significant impact on the downtown businesses here. And the visibility, when we look at what's happening across America, I think, you know, we're not the only community challenged by these workforce layoffs and downsizing and the devastation that causes the family. We are, though, I think, a community that is leading in the transformation of getting back on our feet and moving forward in spite of the harsh conditions that we're and the challenge that we're up against. So I applaud all of you for your presence and your forward thinking, and we need your support to move this forward. It has great, great merit. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? If not, yep, Mr. Summers.
I want to make sure I understand that plan, Mike. We're spending several $1 million to purchase and demolish this park, and then we use TIF money to build something very similar to this between Nothing Sports and Shopko. Why is that plan?
That is if we have a future developer who's interested in that pad adjacent to Dunham's.
That's the parking lot now, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm. Other questions? Yes, sir, right there.
Does this plan have any impact on the current plan for Green Valley Downtown Square? Or is that going to be tied in any way, or is that?
No, they're really two completely separate projects.
But the additional parking and that here, the change of this, is that going to influence the plan for Downtown Square?
No, that's set. Mm-hmm. Mr. Yetchits. Either step forward or speak a little louder. You mean the total wraparound financially? 5.8 million. 5.8 million. Correct. You want me to itemize the individual pieces? $1 million, in essence, is the demolition of everything that you see in the middle, the establishment of all the green space and the construction of all the green space and the curbing, the parking, and then the reestablishment of 3rd Street. That's roughly $968,000. The acquisition of the mall itself is approximately $1.875 million. We have a placeholder currently for the Dunham's building in that totality of sums. Then we have 1.8 million, 1.802 million, I believe, that is the relocation incentive for Midstate. The incentive for Midstate to relocate gets invested directly into the renovation of the building. That's correct. Mr. Kowalski. Well, what am I missing? I guess we'd have to go back through the numbers, but the totality of what's being invested specifically in the city's obligation is 5.8 million, and I'd have to work back through the individual itemizations to make sure we have it right. But the placeholder, now remind you, the placeholder for the acquisition of this building is in there as well, and that is a significant sum of money also. That is still an unknown figure, correct. Other questions? Yes, sir. Oh, absolutely. All of that will be part of the package that we'll eventually present to the public through a variety of different meetings. All that will be coming out right now. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
The plan is outlined now. What will be the net gain or loss in parking spaces in this area and also in tax base?
The tax base would go to 0 on the building that you would see over there. In essence, the building that is Midstate Tech, that would go to 0. The value, in essence, of this area that would then be parking would be owned and operated by the city of Stevens Point. So that would be a public parking lot. That would have no tax base associated with it at all. There will be value that ultimately remains in the Dunham's building. Unclear as to what that value would be. So that the net increase in parking, I believe, is about 125 to 150 spaces. And then the overall decrease in value in terms of tax base is probably, depending on how the values would end up shaking down as of January 1, probably a loss of about $1 million or so of tax base, $1 million to $1.5 million, I believe. And then, of course, the process that we're using for that is clearly the importance of placing an institution like Midstate that has the traffic driven behind it of 2,800 students. We're willing to take that investment and certainly put that forward to make sure that they can do that. And in exchange for the loss of tax base, we know that the sheer importance of the traffic that clearly will be generated by Midstate will then rise and certainly impact the overall value throughout the entire downtown area. So we feel not only will it offset the direct $1 million that we might lose from this institution, in other words, this building that we're standing in, we feel that the importance of Midstate's presence will more than make up for that in increased value in other areas. It becomes now tremendously more marketable. The traffic generation of the placement of a college will then make all of the other parcels that much more valuable moving forward and more marketable at that point as well. So in essence, you've heard Director Gardner and I quite some time say you need to dip down before you go back up, and that's really what this project represents. Any other questions right now? Mr. Kowalski? Midstate Technical College will own their real estate, as opposed to the very convoluted ownership structure that exists now between the city of Stevens Point and then very intricate leasing arrangements that we have with Midstate currently at their Michigan campus. This will be exclusively Midstate's property for their use. Any other questions? Many more to come? Very good. Thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate it.